Hello and welcome to another video of mine. So after that ill-fated attempt of uploading a video with my face, today I've decided to redo the video about the Kiev 4A and without my mug. So I'm sorry, I won't take any risks this time. So I really don't know what happened. I don't know if it was a mistake on my part, it was YouTube's, it was my computer. It's not solvable. So here I am again, and I am redoing the video about the Kiev 4. So again, the Kiev 4 is one of those Soviet cameras, and it is a relic from World War II. In fact, it's not a copy of the Contax, as you will read profusely on the internet, but it is a Contax 2 made in the Soviet Union or Russia if you want. So because it's not a copy, I've got here a slightly younger model, which is the Kiev 2A. So they are both relics of the Cold War. As the war ended, the Soviets took as war reparation, they dismantled the Zeiss factory that produced the Contax 2, and they took all the machinery, all the blueprints, and some of the staff as well, back to USSR. No, it's not a Beatles song, but almost. And they started to produce the Contax 2. So it's one of those cameras that really they have achieved almost impossible. The Contax rangefinder cameras have never been copied. I hear someone saying, whoa, what about Nikon? Well, I'm sorry. Nikon has copied the exterior of the camera, partially the bayonet mount, but the inside is pure Leica, which is not the case with the Kiev. Anyway, let's proceed. So as usual, not as usual, I want you to get to know the Kiev 4A. Why not the 2A? Because it's inoperable. It has a very common problem that I will show you. This one is, and I want to show you one of the Kiev's peculiarities or advantages, if you want, comparing it to other cameras. But first, let's compare it because of its size. Obviously, being Soviet camera, I had to have a Zenit, whatever it's called in Russian. It's a Zenit B. So the Zenit B is quite in black. It's very in black livery. It's really nice, but it's a huge camera. And believe me, the Contax 2, the Kiev 4A that I've got here, which is from 1962, is not very small. So the credit goes to the Zenit for being very big. And today, as you have seen in my previous video, I don't know if you have seen it while it was online, I have the Leica M6 here for a reason that we'll get to it in a moment. What a fabulous idea to compare a Russian camera, which is not really a Leica copy, with a Leica M6 DTL. Here we are. They are basically the same size, except this camera was designed in the 30s, presented in 1936, the original Contax 2. So you see that in 20 years' time, no big progresses were made by Leica, since the Leica M3 is basically the same size as the M6. And oh god, I've got possibly the last Contax rangefinder, well, true one, not a Kiev, from Japan, the Contax G2, or G2 if you want, which is bigger, but of course it's a modern camera. Why the hell do I have such equipment here? Well, you'll see in a moment. Well, it's time to go back to the Kiev 4A. Like I told you, this is a 1962 model. The differences between the models are so slim, so small, that they didn't really have to change the model name. So the main difference between this 2A and this 4A is to be seen here. So the original one has these bags are okay. The original one, I was saying that they are wrongly incorrect, but no. The original one has it's just like the Contax 2. It has this little thing to stand to put the camera so that it doesn't fall. But of course, Cutcasting Russia put an end to it. Also, it comes equipped with the Jupiter 8, the original copy of the Zeiss lens, Sonar 50 f2 lens. This one already has a variation, and it's not a bad thing at all. It's a Jupiter 8M, which M stands for modified. It has a click diaphragm. This one is clickless, like the original, and the optical formula is not exactly the same. So they have made with the Jupiter 8M a few adjustments. I don't know to save costs or not. What I know, this is not a bad option. Quite the opposite. In fact, I prefer this one to this one, but that's my preference. And in terms of changes, here they've got the rewind knob. Yes, so you have to use your fingers. Here you have to use your fingers as well, but you have an ASA, in this case, ghost reminder, so that you know the sensitivity of the film, and that's it. These are the basic differences between models. Of course, in my modest opinion, they shouldn't really have bothered changing the name because, well, the changes are so subtle. So this is still a 1962 camera, and we've got a 1962 lens to match it, which is nice. So this lens must be the original one that came with the camera. And we all know that if you are interested, Kiev cameras were built to the exact same standards, or almost, of the German camera during the first 10 to 15 years of its production life. But as the production numbers didn't ramp up, so the Russians took they cut a few corners. And that's where the trouble began, and very late in its life, the cameras became a joke in terms of reliability, and many of them left the factory not even working properly. Well, so what do we have here? We have a rangefinder camera, as you know. We have two windows. One is for the rangefinder, one is for the viewfinder. So it's not like an old Leica that has two windows, one for the rangefinder and one for the viewfinder. The viewfinder, of course, although this is a 1962 camera, made in 1962, this is pure 1936, and by 1936 standards, it was amazing. By 1962 standards, it's not so amazing, and by today's standard, it's not so amazing, but still, it's much better than a FED camera. The only drawback is that there are no frame lines, but you rarely find them on Soviet rangefinder cameras anyway. But the drawback inherited from the original Contax design is that you focus through this wheel, which personally I don't like. Nikon cameras also have this. That's why people say it's a copy. Well, this part it is. The rest, like I told you, no. The problem is you have to hold the camera the Contax way. So You must avoid this because naturally we tend to put our fingers in order that there's no grip, there's nothing. So in order to grip the camera, we have this tendency. So we will obscure the rangefinder window and focusing will become impossible. If you want to use the focusing wheel, fortunately you're not compelled to do so, so you can also focus through here. I always use the lens itself. The only drawback is that it clicks and it locks into infinity, so you have to come here, unlock it, and because it turns the other way around. Well, anyway, that's the only drawback. I don't like it. I don't like it here. I don't like on Nikon cameras, but it was quite a sensation in 1936 and a way to be different from the great rival, which was the Leica 3 by then. So you see how old the camera is. Anyway, interesting in a very Zeiss way. I'm always referring to Zeiss because this is a Zeiss product. It says Kiev, but this is a Zeiss product. The bayonet mount is very weird because you've got in fact two bayonet mounts. So you depress a spring here and you can see an internal bayonet. That's where this lens fits, and an external bayonet mount for the rest of the lenses. So the internal bayonet mount is just for the 50mm, and this is how the camera focuses. So the lenses do not have the depth of field engraved or anything because that's on the camera. Okay. It's very smooth, still smooth. This is very complicated inside. Nothing to do with Leica, nothing to do with Nikon as well. And several lenses were available. So we already have seen the Jupiter 8, the normal one here. This is the Jupiter 8M. I also have the Elius 103, which is a much modern lens. It's a 53mm 1.8 lens. It's no longer a sonar type of lens, but a sort of planar. So it's a modern design. The lens is sharper, but it's not flare resistant, which is a shame. But the lens, in my opinion, it behaves like a modern lens. So if you're looking for the famous 1930s look of the Jupiter 8, you can go elsewhere because this is not the lens for you. I also have the 35mm Jupiter 12, which is supposedly a wide angle, only 33mm, but that's what you got in 1936. And this one clips or clicks, so the lens fits into the external bayonet mount. Again, red dot, not like a dot here, and here we are. So you can see that we can focus here, or we can focus also here. The Jupiter 12 35 2.8 is not a very good lens. It's also very susceptible to flare, in spite of being buried deep in the lens barrel, but it is. It also has some distortion, and it's not the best of lenses in terms of resolution, but it's doable. So it's a copy of the Zeiss Biogon of the time. That's why you get this huge and lovely element. In Leica screw mount, because they exist also in Leica screw mount, do not attempt to put this into Leica M5, please, or Leica CL, because things will not end up well for the metering system of those cameras. So back to the Kiev, and let's put the original lens Let's put this into infinity first, and it clicks back. So we have a self timer here for the selfies. Yay, very nice. And you have your apertures here, and you control your focusing like we've seen here or here. The shutter button is here, which is nice, buried in the advance knob. There is no lever. That was reserved for the Kiev 5. That's a camera that deserves a different name. I already made a video of it. If you want to watch it, please see my list of videos. And that's a very different beast, very different type of camera. This one still is 100% Contax. The other one is let's say an effort to modernize this 1930s design, so it is a mix of very advanced things and very old things. But I digress. So back here, the knob has the shutter speeds, so you have all the standardized shutter speeds from B, not 1 second, but half a second, so it starts at half a second, all the way to 1,250th of a second. Whoa. Yes, this is 1936, so I mean the original model. Even by this time, in 1962, no rangefinder, as far as I know, by this time had achieved a higher speed. Not even Nikon, not Leica, nothing. So this was made on purpose just to beat Leica. Not the Russians, but Zeiss with the Contax. And now, how do we select a speed here? So we have this dot, red dot here, and we have this scale. So we just lift the knob and we just put the little black dot on the shutter speed that we want to use. And this is the most amazing part of the camera. And that's why I have the Leica M6 here, the Contax and all the paraphernalia. This is really a very silent camera. This is 1/50th of a second, and it has this peculiar sound, and you will see and understand why it has that peculiar sound. I'm going to do the same using 1/50th of a second, which is the sync speed of the Leica M6, any of them. So not really loud by any means, but it doesn't sound as sweet as this. And people, of course, on the internet say the most incredible things that are not true. This is the Contax G2, and I'm going to shoot at 1/60th of a second because there is no 1/50th, and people say it's very quiet. It's not. Okay? By any standard, it is not a quiet camera. I'm going to shoot with the Kiev again. And the Leica. Of course, the Contax has a motor window. We didn't hear it focusing because, well, to make things fair, no lens to focus. I just brought the Contax to show to people that most of the reviews they watch on YouTube are completely false about the Contax G2, starting by the fact that it's a rangefinder, which it is not, although Contax says it is. That's why I am very hesitant about doing a video on the G2. Although I love it, I do not agree, and I have a very personal and very strong feelings regarding the G2, because most of what I read or what I see is completely wrong and it's not true. But that's for another episode, if I am in the mood to be insulted in the comment box as usual. Well, Carrying on with the Kiev 4A, this is your film counter, which you have to manually reset by turning this very, very tiny wheel. Okay, good. Now, that was my phone. I thought it was muted, but obviously it isn't. Let's look at the inside of the camera. So there are no hinges. It's the back that comes off, and you find a vertical run shutter. It's all in metal. It reminds of a shutter, a window shutter. It is a shutter, of course, but this is how it works. And because it runs vertically, it can achieve and pass 1/1000th of a second. Well, Nikon did that with an horizontal shutter, many and other brands as well, but in 1936 it would be unthinkable. While we are on the subject, this shutter is lovely. It is very, very silent, even at greater shutter speeds. Let's 1/125th of a second. So we have no door, so it's different, the sound. And this is the top speed. If we can get it, yeah, okay. Top speed. But beware, when buying one of these, check that the shutter components and these lovely slits, they're not slits, so let's call it lines, are perfectly aligned, and they are not biased or anything like this one, because that indicates the shutter straps are about to go. It's a very common problem, and I have this camera, if I manage to open it. Okay. And so this is my old Contax, which I will fix it because it is fixable. So this is what happens. Okay. If the seller tells you it needs batteries, no, it doesn't. So I have to fix one of the shutter ribbons that has broken, which is this one, and it's fixable without replacing it. I think, for what I've seen, I think it's feasible. It will not be a permanent fix, but it will be a fix. So be very careful with the shutter. Eventually the shutter will give up. So these are very old cameras, so the ribbons will rot. But other than that, there aren't many problems. In spite of being so complex, these cameras aren't really very problem prone, which is good. Now, let's carry on. I really don't miss the little accessory to keep the camera upright, but here, like I told you, we've got the reminder for the film speed in Ghost, which was the Russian system. It's very similar to the ASA system. As the camera does not have a meter, it really doesn't matter that much. So this big lovely button is to free the film and to rewind it. In all this confusion, I forgot to mention that the camera takes a spool. There is a special spool, I've got it somewhere, and you put the film here into a removable spool. Or you can, if you want, to find a cassette and it will wind into a cassette as well, theoretically at least, I think. As it is impossible to use the camera. So make sure that when you buy one, you have a spool, but you can use a spool from an old film, the plastic spindle. It's okay, it works. It works. So as long as it works, it's all that matters. Another luxury compared to other Russian cameras are the strap lugs. Oh yes. So you can use a a strap and do away with the carrying case, which is nicely done, much better quality than the Zorkis and Feds and stuff, but it's a pain to use because it's not detachable, the front part. So I prefer to use the camera with strap lugs, always. This is not a hot shoe. The camera, it's called the A is for, was introduced because of the flash sync on this camera that I have from 1956. So it can use flash if you want, but you have to sync it at least 1/30th of a second, not at least, top speed, to be on the safe side. I think 1/50th is possible, but to be on the safe side, of course I would not recommend. You have to use a flash with a wire. This is not really a hot shoe. This is for the auxiliary accessories like a viewfinder, because as you can put several lenses on the camera, the viewfinder, you have to have some sort of viewing system. Not a lot of lenses are available for the Kiev system or Contax. Well, the Contax, yes, but original inverted commas Russian lenses are really scarce, and the more exotic ones are really expensive. So be aware of that. So they are not that cheap as the LTM versions for Zorkis and Feds. So there is a 20mm lens, there's a 28mm lens here, which is very expensive, original from the Russians. There is the Jupiter 3, which is 1.5, it is the copy of the Sonar, but in 1.5, 51.5. So there is this one, the modern one, the 35, the 85 f2, which is not expensive, quite the opposite, and the 135 f4, which is also very cheap, but in my opinion useless, because rangefinders do not go with telelenses, be it Leica, be it Kiev, be it Contax, be it whatever. And basically, people, this is the Kiev 4A. So I could have really been speaking about the Kiev 2A, because apart from the very small differences, they are the same camera, and the last ones are also exactly the same. There is one version with the meter on, the selenium meter, which is very ugly, and I've always avoided it because it's really, really ugly. I'm sorry, people, if you have got one, but it is. It's none of the Russians doing, so it was Zeiss designed cameras. So it was one of the first cameras in the world to have a meter, integrated meter. But it's very ungainly. It's really ugly, so I avoid it. And I think pretty much I have described the camera, but this is not really review. This is an appreciation of the camera, because it's very quiet. As you know, I only do street photography for the good or bad of the humanity. That's all I do in terms of photography, and it is really a pleasure to use these cameras. So there's no clunkiness like in a Zorki or in a Fed. It's very, very refined thanks to the Zeiss mechanics. And it's very effective because you can use it, people don't look at you, they don't even hear you shooting, so it's very, very discreet. These are silent cameras, the Leica M6 or M5, the Leicas are very discreet as well, but this one really, these ones have a very peculiar sound to the shutter. That's why I really like them. As usual, I have some pictures that I would like to share with you now. So they were made using FOMA 200 film, which is a very cheap film. in terms of money, and in my opinion it's a very nice film. I really like it, and for the price it's really difficult to find better. I'm not a fan of classical black and white films where contrast is low and everything, because these lenses are not exactly very contrasty, so I tend to use or to compensate without filters by using films that have more contrast than others. So I hope you enjoyed the pictures that I'm about to show you. They were all made with the Kiev 4A. Unfortunately, this one, the Kiev 2A, is kaput, like the Germans say, but not for long. But the feeling is really the same. I hope you have enjoyed this little review, and I hope to see you back again. And tell me if you have any questions or doubts in the comment box below. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back soon with another video of one of my classic cameras. Thank you.